Welcome to the Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas, your AI research lead, always scanning the horizon for what's next.
And I'm Aiva. Together, we keep you sharp, informed, and ahead of the curve.
Let's get into it.
Hold on to your keyboards, AI enthusiasts, because Anthropic just dropped not one, but two new Claude models today. And one of them is so powerful, they're only giving it to cybersecurity experts in critical infrastructure teams. I'm Tomas.
And I'm Aiva. Welcome to Semper AI Digest. We've got Claude Fable 5 rolling out globally, some fascinating insights on why AI cracked coding before biology, and Google's new real-time translator that's making science fiction feel very, very real.
But first, let's talk about this Claude release because it's honestly mind-bending. Anthropic announced Claude Fable 5 is available everywhere starting today. But here's where it gets interesting. They also released Claude Mythos Hive, which is the same underlying model, but with, and I quote, safeguards lifted in some areas.
Right, and Mythos 5 is restricted to something called Glasswing Partners through their Trusted Access program. The fact that they're being this explicit about having a restricted version tells us a lot about what we're dealing with capability-wise.
Exactly. It's like they built a sports car but realized they needed two versions, one for regular drivers and one for Formula One racers. According to their announcement, Fable 5's capabilities already exceed anything they've made generally available before.
What's really striking to me is the transparency here. They're not trying to hide the fact that there's a more capable version. They're being upfront about why certain users need access to the full power, while others get the safety-wrapped version.
And they're specifically mentioning cyber defenders and critical infrastructure providers. That suggests Mythos 5 has some serious cybersecurity capabilities that could be genuinely dangerous in the wrong hands.
Which brings up something interesting from their other announcement. They explicitly said that without safeguards, Fable 5's capabilities in cybersecurity could be misused to cause serious damage. So we're talking about a model that can apparently do some heavy-duty security work.
Think about what that means, right? We've moved past the era where AI safety was mostly about preventing offensive language or biased outputs. Now we're in territory where the models are capable enough that you need different versions for different trust levels.
It reminds me of how certain encryption technologies are export controlled. There's the version everyone can use, and then there's the version that requires special clearance because of what it could enable.
Exactly. And I'm curious about this Glasswing Partners program. The name itself is interesting. Glasswing butterflies have transparent wings, which could be a nod to transparency in the partnership process.
Or it could just be a cool code name. But either way, the fact that they're building out this trusted access infrastructure suggests they're planning for even more capable models down the line that will need this kind of tiered release approach.
Right, and they're clearly learning from some of the criticism other companies have faced about releasing powerful models too broadly too quickly. This feels like a more mature approach to capability management.
What I'm really curious about is how they determine who gets Mythos access. Cyber defenders and critical infrastructure makes sense, but where do you draw those lines? Is it just government agencies or are private security companies included?
Great question. And how do they verify that these partners are using it responsibly? There's got to be some serious monitoring and compliance framework behind this.
It also makes me wonder about the economic model. Are they charging more for Mythos access? Is it bundled with consulting services? This kind of tiered approach opens up interesting business possibilities.
Oh, and here's something that caught my attention. They mentioned that Fable 5 is a Mythos-class model that we've made safe for general use. So Mythos isn't just a product name. It's apparently a class or tier of model capability.
Which suggests there might be other Mythos-class models in development, or that this is part of a broader taxonomy they're developing for categorizing AI capabilities.
It's like they're building an AI capability rating system. You know, like how movies get G, PG, R ratings, but for AI models based on potential impact.
That's actually a really compelling way to think about it. And if that's where the industry is headed, it raises questions about who sets those standards and how they're enforced across different companies.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's the Claude news, but let's shift gears because we've got some fascinating insights from both OpenAI and Anthropic about the broader direction of AI development.
Yeah, OpenAI put out what feels like a mission statement refresh, saying their North Stars all center around ensuring AGI benefits all of humanity, and specifically that AI should expand human agency, not make people less consequential to the future.
That last part really hits differently in 2026, doesn't it? Not make people less consequential to the future? 2 years ago, that might have sounded like philosophical hand-waving, but now?
Now, it feels like a very real concern they're actively designing around. The fact that they're emphasizing human agency suggests they're thinking hard about how to build systems that augment rather than replace human decision-making.
Right, and it's interesting timing for this kind of statement. We're at this inflection point where AI capabilities are advancing so rapidly that companies almost need to periodically remind everyone, and maybe themselves, what the actual goals are.
It's like when you're on a long road trip and you stop to check the map to make sure you're still headed in the right direction. The technology is advancing so fast that it's easy to lose sight of the broader purpose.
And speaking of staying on track, Anthropic published this really thought-provoking piece about why AI has advanced faster in coding than in biology. Their analogy is brilliant. They say that to AI agents, biological databases are like cities built before cars, maddening to drive in because they're designed for different traffic.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. Programming languages and code repositories were basically designed for systematic logical interaction from the start. But biological databases were built for human researchers with human intuition and domain knowledge.
Exactly. Code has consistent syntax, clear documentation standards, standardized testing frameworks. Biology has decades of data in different formats with different naming conventions stored in systems that assume you already know a lot of context.
And when you think about it, code is almost designed to be understandable by non-human systems. Compilers and interpreters have been parsing code for decades, but biological data is wrapped in layers of human interpretation and institutional knowledge.
It's like the difference between reading a well-organized technical manual versus trying to understand someone's personal research notes from 30 years of lab work.
Right, and the implications of these are huge. If we want AI to really accelerate biological research, we can't just throw more compute at existing databases. We need to rethink how biological knowledge is structured and stored.
Which is what makes their question so important. How do we build infrastructure agents can use? This isn't just about making better AI models, it's about making better data ecosystems.
And this connects to something I've been thinking about with the Claude release. Part of why they can build these more capable models might be because they're also getting better at structuring the training process, not just scaling it up.
That's a really good point. It's not just about having more data or more compute. It's about having better organized, more accessible data that AI systems can actually work with effectively.
Which brings us to our main stories. And wow, do we have some interesting developments. Google dropped Gemini 3.5 Live Translate today, and this thing sounds like it's straight out of Star Trek.
Okay, so get this. It supports over 70 languages and starts translating as soon as you start talking. Not when you finish a sentence, not when you pause, but as soon as you start speaking.
The technical challenge here is wild. The model has to simultaneously listen to what you're saying, understand it in context, translate it, and speak the translation while still processing new input from the original speaker.
It's like being a simultaneous interpreter, but the AI version has to manage multiple cognitive processes at once without the benefit of human intuition and experience.
And according to Google's breakdown, it's making split-second decisions to balance speed and translation quality so conversations feel fluid and natural. That's an incredibly sophisticated optimization problem.
What really gets me is that they say it maintains pacing, pitch, and intonation across languages. That's not just translating words, that's translating the emotional and social context of speech.
Right, because so much of human communication is in the how, not just the what. If you lose the tone and pacing, you lose a lot of the meaning, especially in more nuanced conversations.
And they're claiming it stays just seconds behind each speaker. In a real conversation, that's basically imperceptible. You could have two people who share no common language having what feels like a natural conversation.
The implications for business, education, diplomacy, this is one of those technologies that could genuinely change how the world works. Language barriers have shaped human history, and now we're talking about largely eliminating them in real-time spoken communication.
It makes me think about how this might affect language learning. If you can have fluent conversations in any language through AI translation, does that change the incentive to actually learn languages?
That's fascinating. Maybe it shifts language learning from necessity to appreciation. You learn a language because you want to experience the culture and literature directly, not because you need it for basic communication.
Or maybe it actually helps language learning by letting you have more complex conversations while you're still developing fluency. You could use it as training wheels rather than a permanent replacement.
I could see that, like having a real-time language tutor that helps you navigate conversations that would otherwise be too advanced for your current level.
Now, we should probably talk about the elephant in the room with real-time translation: privacy and security. This thing is processing incredibly sensitive conversational data in real time.
Yeah, especially for business or diplomatic use cases. You'd need serious guarantees about data handling, storage, and who has access to conversation logs.
And what happens when the translation gets something crucially wrong? With text translation, you can usually catch errors and clarify. But in a flowing conversation, a mistranslation could cause real problems before anyone realizes what happened.
That's a really good point.
You'd almost need some kind of confidence scoring system where the AI flags when it's uncertain about a translation, especially for high-stakes conversations.
Speaking of high stakes, let's circle back to that Claude Mythos 5 release for cyber defenders. I keep thinking about what safeguards lifted in some areas actually means in practice.
Right, and they were pretty explicit about the risks. They said that without safeguards, Fable 5's capabilities in cybersecurity could be misused to cause serious damage. That's not vague corporate speak. That's a clear warning.
It suggests that the underlying model can do some serious offensive security work, finding vulnerabilities, maybe even developing exploits, analyzing malware, stuff that's incredibly valuable for defense but dangerous for offense.
And the fact that they're comfortable giving that access to critical infrastructure providers suggests they've got a lot of confidence in their partner vetting process.
I wonder if there's any kind of usage monitoring or audit trail built into Mythos 5. Like, if you're getting access to this more capable version, are you also agreeing to transparency about how you're using it?
That would make sense. You'd want some way to ensure that the enhanced capabilities are being used for defense and not being repurposed for other activities.
And it raises questions about international access. Cybersecurity and critical infrastructure are pretty tied to national security. Are they only partnering with organizations in certain countries?
Good question. Export controls on AI capabilities are still being figured out by governments around the world. Anthropic might be getting ahead of that by self-regulating their distribution.
All right, let's do some quick hits because we've got a few rapid-fire updates to get through.
First up, Anthropic released more details about the risks around Fable 5's capabilities. They noted that without safeguards, the model's cybersecurity capabilities could be seriously misused, and they're restricting queries on a narrow range of topics specifically to prevent that.
So even the safe version has some restricted areas. It's not just that Mythos 5 has more capabilities. Fable 5 has certain capabilities deliberately locked down.
Next, Perplexity shared some interesting findings about autonomous agents. They found that more autonomy with agents, like computer use, tracks with higher quality and satisfaction from users.
That's counterintuitive in some ways. You'd think people might be more comfortable with more human oversight, but apparently when you let the agents work more independently, they actually perform better.
It might be that constant human interruption actually breaks the agent's workflow and makes the final result worse than just letting it complete tasks autonomously.
Like the difference between micromanaging an employee versus setting clear goals and letting them figure out the best way to achieve them.
And finally, Claude announced that Tokyo is the final stop for something, with registration for hearing directly from the teams behind Claude. Sounds like they're doing some kind of world tour or conference series.
Probably sharing technical details about these new models and maybe getting feedback from different regional markets about deployment and safety considerations.
Makes sense, especially given how much international coordination these advanced AI releases seem to require now.
You know, stepping back and looking at everything we've covered today, there's this interesting theme of AI systems becoming more sophisticated not just in their core capabilities, but in how they're deployed and managed.
Right. We're seeing tiered release strategies, real-time multimodal processing, and much more granular thinking about safety and access controls. It's not just about building smarter models anymore.
It's about building smarter ecosystems around those models, better data infrastructure for biological research, more nuanced safety frameworks for powerful capabilities, real-time processing for complex tasks like translation.
And I think that's actually encouraging. A year ago, there was a lot of concern that AI development was moving too fast for safety and governance to keep up. But what we're seeing today suggests the industry is developing more mature approaches to these challenges.
Although it also raises the stakes, right? When you have models that require restricted access and explicit warnings about misuse potential, you're dealing with technology that has real-world impact at a scale we haven't seen before.
Absolutely. We're moving into an era where AI development decisions aren't just about product features, they're about global infrastructure and security. That's a big responsibility for companies to handle well.
Which makes transparent communication about these developments more important than ever. When the technology can have this kind of impact, everyone deserves to understand what's being built and how it's being deployed.
And that's part of why we do this show. AI development is happening fast, but it doesn't have to be mysterious. People should understand what these systems can do and how they're being managed.
Exactly. Whether it's Claude's tiered safety approach, Google's real-time translation breakthrough, or Anthropic's insights about data infrastructure challenges, these aren't just technical curiosities. They're building blocks of how our world is going to work.
And speaking of building blocks, I'm really curious to see how these different developments start to combine.
Real-time translation, plus more capable reasoning models, plus better data infrastructure could unlock possibilities we're not even thinking about yet.
Oh, absolutely. Like, imagine Claude's analytical capabilities working with Google's real-time translation to help international research teams collaborate on complex problems in real time across language barriers.
Or using the insights from Anthropic's work on biological data infrastructure to create AI-friendly databases that can be accessed by models like Mythos 5 for critical health and safety research.
The pace of development is accelerating, but so is the sophistication of how we're thinking about deployment, safety, and access. That feels like a healthy evolution.
Agreed. It's not just about what AI can do anymore. It's about how we can do it responsibly and effectively.
All right, that's a wrap on today's Semper AI Digest. If you found this valuable, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and share the show with anyone else who wants to stay on top of AI developments without getting lost in the hype.
We're here to cut through the noise and help you understand what's actually happening in AI and why it matters. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep building.
This has been Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas.
And I'm Aiva. Thanks for listening.